What's up, guys? Connor O'Hanlon here for another episode of the Greater Society podcast. Today, we have a plethora of small stories that are going to amount to probably a long episode. I was thinking about trying to start the episode early tonight, but then, of course, I couldn't leave work until late tonight. So my brain is fried from doing a specific group of tax returns. So you'll have to excuse me. My transitions tonight will be might be a little rough because there's so many different random things to cover on tonight's show. Um, but with that being said, I'm going to start off first by asking you if you're watching on YouTube to please hit the subscribe button. It'll help us grow the channel. We're about to hit 110 subscribers. If you are listening to this in the future, please come on over to YouTube and hit the subscribe button because it's really important to growing the channel. So that being said, there is a lot of stuff to cover here. I'm not even going to be able to, do a full intro. I'd just be wasting my time. So what we're going to do and what I plan on doing here, I want to start here in Pennsylvania first, and then we will dial it up and up and up and transition as we see fit here. But the first thing I want to talk about is, and I have so many tweets, so many videos to show us. The first thing I want to show is former guest of the show, friend, I'd like to say, State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, who, again, if you're not following Malcolm Kenyatta, that's like it's ludicrous to me because he's a rising star in the Democratic Party, not just here in Pennsylvania, but him and his partner were just having dinner with President Biden like this week. So it's not just a PA thing. He is somebody that really speaks to the issues. And of course, he had the honor, the pleasure, and I'm sure he would put it this way, to introduce, as we talked about last week, the new majority for the Democrats in the State House of Pennsylvania. The Democrats gain control, thus have the control to vote for a new speaker. Rozzy, I believe that's how you say it, was, I believe it's Mike. I don't want to misspeak, but he was the person that the Republicans put up after losing the majority, and they were like, "Hey, we'll vote for anybody but Joanna McClinton, but just put this guy up." And he did a good job in the interim. You got to say, he is a Democrat. Then said he would switch to independent. Now he said he's going to step back because the Democrats have the majority. So, long preamble to say, this is a video of Malcolm Kenyatta, State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, introducing and nominating Joanna McClinton to be the first African-American to ever be the Speaker of the House of Representatives in the state of Pennsylvania. So let's take a look.
And I have the profound honor of nominating to lead this House the first woman, the second African-American, and my good friend, the gentlelady from Philadelphia, Joanna McClinton. Madam Clerk, I have had the honor of knowing Leader McClinton well before she ever led this body as a lawyer over in the other chamber, but she had the good sense to come over here instead. But as a lawyer in the other chamber, and she gave me a call and said, "There's an open seat, and I'm thinking about running for state representative." And I had previously run some campaigns in Philadelphia and said, "I would love to talk to you about it. I think you would be fantastic." And she has held up to that. You have been a phenomenal member of this body. You have been an outstanding leader of our caucus, and you are such a leader that we need for such a time as this to lead Pennsylvania to a better place. Leader McClinton started her career standing up for the least of these in Pennsylvania as a public defender. Standing up for clients who need...
Sorry, Malcolm, I'm pausing you here. It is important to note when people are in politics that are lawyers that come from a public defense background. That is something that you don't find every day. A lot of the people that get into politics from being a lawyer are prosecutors. And even if you're a defense lawyer, they're not usually public defense lawyers. So remember that public defenders basically get like whoever they get. Like when you're a public defender, you get somebody that is they might most likely even be guilty of a crime, and you have to provide them the services that are guaranteed, not suggested, guaranteed under the Constitution of the United States. So having somebody that's in leadership, that she's been in leadership in the state house, but to be the speaker coming from that background, although I think that not everybody should be a lawyer that's a politician, but regardless, if you're a lawyer coming from a public defense background, I think that's wonderful. But obviously, most people on the floor obviously understand why he's saying that, and he'll allude to it, but just, to further illustrate why, to maybe somebody not as tuned into why that's important.
Needed somebody to go to bat for them, to make sure they got their fair due in court. She then came to this body to help make sure that the laws that every Pennsylvanian has to live under are fair and just. And in this chamber, she is somebody who's going to lead us with that same level of integrity, that same ability to lead with fairness, and as was said in the prayer this morning, to
do justice, to love, mercy, etc. So that's really the clip. We don't need the full other one. It's more of the same, but just to point out that, well, we have one great leader in Malcolm introducing and nominating, which she ends up, spoiler alert, getting the votes to become the Speaker of the House of Representatives in Pennsylvania. There is a lot to be done in state politics. I think that Malcolm's coming back here. We as a group, we as progressives, we as people that are, Malcolm's only a couple years older than me, but we as like as an age cohort really need to look at this opportunity and say, okay, if we can do this in Pennsylvania, we can flip the state house. Well, what do we need to do next to actually make progressive change possible? Well, we need to flip the state Senate. When can we do that? 2024. That is when we have the next opportunity to do that. So always understanding that in 2023, you have the ability to elect local leaders to your school board or to your township supervisor board, to your borough council. These are places to launch people that can get the experience, that can get the governing experience to then later become one of these positions. Now, I don't believe that you have to have that experience to become a state representative. Obviously, I never did when I ran for state representative, but it's ways that people get into government, get into organizing, get into campaigning, and get within the party, which is the point of what my project is to show you can do this. You can get in the party. You can agree with most things. You can disagree with some things, and you can still operate within that system to raise yourself up to a leadership position to eventually take control of the vehicle to steer it towards a more progressive future, which is what people like Malcolm are doing and what people like Joanna McClinton are going to be doing, leading the party. Now, again, it's limited because we don't have control of the state Senate, but this is still historic. It's still a celebration that is worthwhile. And with Governor Shapiro, there are things that can pass there's a bill that passed in the state house that needs to pass the state senate, protecting sexual assault survivors. Like there are these things that there should be consensus about, needs to be worked out, but that is where we're going to be starting tonight, and staying within Pennsylvania, staying within maybe Bucks County, which you can either look at this as I'm dialing it in or I'm dialing it out. The next thing I wanted to talk about is this. So, also another friend of the show, Melza, on Twitter. I don't know if she wants me to use her real name, but you can follow her. Send me this vote. And this vote, for those who can't see, is, I will zoom in. I'll read it for those who are listening. This is about Pennsylvania 1st Congressional District, our very own Bucks County congressional leader, if you want to call him that. The vice chair or the co-chair, whatever he is, of the Problem Solvers Caucus, which doesn't seem to be solving many problems together, Brian Fitzpatrick. This is the first thing that I want to talk about, and then this is going to pivot into a few things. But I think it's worthwhile, as Melza had sent this to me. She said this might be interesting to discuss, and I think it was, because it's a good time to discuss what I haven't talked about, with 2024 being the next opportunity to knock Fitzpatrick out of that seat. And of course, we have friend of the show. Again, I don't know who wants to be named, who doesn't want to be named, but our parody account of Brian Fitzpatrick as well, that brings a lot of this stuff to my attention by engaging with it. But this is a vote on the House of Representatives, not the state house, the federal house, and I almost said the actual house. Both are actual houses, but the vote here is I'm reading the quote now. The House voted mainly along party lines to repeal a Biden administration Labor Department rule allowing retirement plan managers to consider environmental, social, and corporate governance (ESG) factors in their investment decisions. Joint resolution now heads to the Senate, but that's a different beast. But the vote was 216 to 204. So, of course, when we I'll bring myself back here because might as well look at me. Why this is important is, let's just say we can go way back to an interview I did that predates this show with Cyril Michaleko about investitures from I don't believe it was Vanguard, but it might have been Vanguard, and talking about how consumers as investors, so you and I as people that put money away and we want to retire someday, the main way that we do this, because Social Security is undercut and underfunded by Republicans in this country and historically has not been supported the way that it should be to let people retire, but that's another story. Pension systems have been historically underfunded, mismanaged, and don't exist for people in our generation, our being millennials, even Gen X and Zoomers. We will not have that option for pensions. So what we have is an ability to invest in 401ks, to invest in our own retirement plans however we see fit. You can invest in stocks, whatnot. I don't think this is the ideal way of developing retirement plans for people. And I mean that in the efficiency sense. I think that there are certain things that should be just granted, but take that for what it is. This was a proposal and a conversation I had with Cyril back probably 2 years at this point ago, where we're talking about control of ETFs, hedge funds, mutual funds, whatever you want to call them, and say, if you invest in this, you should have a say in what they invest in. AKA, let's take the environmental part, because that's really the crux of this, is saying, well, I want to invest in something that is sustainable, something that is not going to be oil and gas based, something that's not necessarily going to be even nuclear. Some people don't want to invest in that stuff, but having control of those things is important. into investors, and to developing these mutual funds, these hedge funds, corporations, and stockbrokers and all that stuff. Mix them all together. So when you buy a mutual fund, you're buying a stock of multiple different companies. So you might be investing in one share of the mutual fund, but you're in theory buying small portions or fragments of shares of all these other companies. So basically, Brian Fitzpatrick doesn't think that it matters to be able to have this labor protection, because of course moderate Brian Fitzpatrick would never vote by party lines to just ram something through that benefited the oil and gas industry. Now, would he? Now, that's rhetorical, because of course he would. Of course he would. So that's just one vote. The other part of this that we have talked about on this show with former candidate and, maybe future, we don't know. I don't know anything. I'm not leaking anything here, but I wouldn't be surprised to see round 2. But with Ashley Ehasz was a discussion of abortion. And I'm sure I'm going to get some comments about this, but Brian Fitzpatrick is not a moderate when it comes to the issue of abortion. Brian Fitzpatrick is not a moderate on most things. When compared to the Matt Gaetzes of the world, sure. Of course, if you recall the Speaker of the House vote a couple months ago, Brian Fitzpatrick was the one that was talking with Matt Gaetz to try to get his vote for Speaker McCarthy. And of course, Speaker McCarthy kisses the ring of Donald Trump. And I'm saying kisses the ring because I don't want to say the other thing he's kissing. Donald Trump. This is Brian Fitzpatrick is falling in line as he always does, and he takes some strategic votes that will make him look good under certain lights. Of course, he takes pictures at pride festivals and then will never do anything to protect the LGBTQ plus community. He will show up to, different rallies. He'll show up to this, that, and the other thing, but he will not protect a woman's right to choose. This is why I'm happy to report, if I can find it, I'm going to go to this one first. We're going to go to, here it is in the Bucks County Beacon, but this is not just a report from the Bucks County Beacon, but this is a report. I have guitars all over as the advertisement here, but here's an article for those listening that says Political Action Committee, or PAC for those unaware where that acronym comes from, Emily's List, which Emily's List is a major PAC, wants Republican Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick to know that they have every intention to ensure his defeat in 2024. This is a big move. This is something that is important because Emily's List, which I don't know where this links to, but let's see. Okay, here we go. Emily's List, and I will pull who we are, is elect Democratic pro-choice women to office. So this is what Emily's List does. Of course, if your goal is to elect women, ignore the pro-choice right now, but if your just goal is to elect more women to office, you are going to care about women's rights. You're going to care about the issues that face women. Now, of course, Emily's List is a pro-choice group, but in the abstract alone, if you care about women's rights, you care about electing pro-choice women, you're not going to support Brian Fitzpatrick because he does not give a damn about it. Now, the second one that we have here, which is in tandem, which this is going to spook everybody because you're going to see Brian Fitzpatrick's lurking eyes at the bottom of the screen here. So I'm sorry if you're watching this on a large screen TV, because that's quite big. The Lincoln Project puts Brian Fitzpatrick on its 2024 wanted list for his congressional seat. Now, why am I talking about this today? Well, one, it's been brought to my attention in the past couple of weeks. I just haven't had the ability to talk about it. But two, I, as somebody that has been invested in a number of races, I have hands-on worked on this congressional seat for, this will be my, in 2024, my fourth cycle working on this to defeat Brian Fitzpatrick. Brian Fitzpatrick holding the seat is one of the few, I think, if I remember correctly, so don't quote me on this, but was one of 3 Hillary districts in 2016 that were still Democratic after 2018. Or sorry, were still Republican after 2018. So there is a great chance to flip this district. Selfishly, I want to flip this district. My problem here, and why I'm talking about it, as I loop back to why number 2, is that, and I'm not going to say Emily's list is like this, because Emily's list does trainings, it does support candidates. But groups like the Lincoln Project, groups that are, and I'm going to put this in quotes for those listening, former Republicans, because people like freaking Billy Crystal, or Bill Crystal, sorry, not Billy Crystal, because Billy Crystal's the actor, Bill Crystal, David Frum, these people that were major neoconservatives back in the early 2000s, created the party that now is engulfed by Trumpism. It's time to put your damn money where your mouth is. You might notice that sometimes if you're if you live in Doylestown and you get the Doylestown Democrats newsletter, wonderful. I don't agree with the inclusion, and I don't have control over this. I don't agree with the inclusion of ever including the Lincoln Project, because I think the Lincoln Project is a scam. I think the Lincoln Project never actually puts its money where its mouth is and unseats the Republicans that they sewn the suit for, and now you see Brian Fitzpatrick slide into that suit and saying, hey, I'm here. I don't do anything to represent the, independent streak of Bucks County. I don't do anything to represent the majority Democratic population. I don't do anything positive for this district that even a moderate Democrat couldn't do, and do better for that matter. The Lincoln Project, and I'm saying this because I want them to put their money where their mouth is, and I can say, oh, I don't hate them anymore, could donate them at least $1 million, because I know that they get millions of dollars in PAC donations, instead of spending money on their stupid ads that just want to be put on MSNBC to stoke fear. You could put money into what could have been in 2022 Ashley Ehas's campaign. You could put it in 2024 campaign, whoever is running against Brian Fitzpatrick, and say, this is money well spent. This is money delegated to a candidate that knows what they're doing and actually can get ad buys and do the stuff that matters and get the money necessary to beat Brian Fitzpatrick. So putting him on your list, wonderful. Now, put your money where your mouth is. I'm so tired of this. I'm so sick of these PACs that just, come out of nowhere. They act so high and mighty, and they act like we should never remember the fact that they created the Republican Party of today. The Lincoln Project specifically is a major issue in my opinion. I do not support, retweeting them, and not support anything with the Lincoln Project. And I would gladly change my opinion if they gave $500,000 to $1,000,000 to whoever our candidate is in 2024. And I'm saying this as somebody that I am not running in 2024. So that is not what I'm saying. This is something that like our candidates need. You need money to compete with this because the Republicans just back up a dump truck. And now, of course, Kevin McCarthy is a frequent flyer with Brian Fitzpatrick. So he'll have money. That's why we have to do this to compete. So that's my rant on that tonight. And now we can move on. I need some water. Oh my God. Now speaking of 2024, I think that's my my cue. This is something that I did not tee up in my promotions of this evening in any way. But let's talk briefly about, because we're talking about 24, let's talk briefly about the presidential primary for Donald Trump and the Republicans, because that is what it is. It is not DeSantis and the others yet. It is Trump and the others right now. So let's take a look at this. This is an article from Politico. Just how big is the always Trump component of the Republican Party? Now, just to back this up with some information. Why is this vital? Well, you may have noticed, and we have discussed it, but we will continue to discuss this media narrative. This is from the left media, and I don't mean leftist. I mean, CNN, MSNBC. The left media and the Fox News media, not the necessarily Newsmax type folks. Like the further right you go, the more alternative right-wing media you get to, the more always Trump they are. As pointed out in chat, Meatball Ron is it's not my nickname. Meatball Ron, that Trump would never call. I would never call him Meatball Ron. The media's just saying I would call him that. But Ron DeSantis is the new version of the Marco Rubio, the Paul Ryan, the Ted Cruz, the not Trump Republican that, of course, literally mirrors Trump's mannerisms, literally copies his speaking style, has no charisma whatsoever, is not funny the same way. And I'm saying this, again, people, you can't take this out of context here, but Trump is hilarious. Ron DeSantis has none of that. Ron DeSantis can pick fights with people that have no power, as we'll talk about. Transgender people, gay people. Of course, he'll pick the fights there, right? Where they can't punch him back, basically. And I'm saying metaphorically. But Trump doesn't give a shit. So for them to go at each other is actually beneficial for the Democratic Party, in my opinion. Because I think Ron DeSanctimonious needs to be taken down a peg. And I think, honestly, my opinion could change here, but like, I think Democrats' chances in 2024, whether it's Joe Biden or somebody else, are higher against Donald Trump. And two, if we were to lose, and this is not something that I'm predicting, this is not something that I want, but if Democrats were to lose in 2024, I would rather it be, and I'm open to hearing the other, opinions on this. I would rather it be to Trump than to Ron DeSantis. Now, I think that there are other Republicans that I would rather lose to. There are other people, that we could throw out there that maybe would be potential, I suppose, like if Mitt Romney was the candidate and we had to lose to somebody better than Trump or DeSantis. But in those two, I would rather have Trump, because I think that people would pay attention. I think that people wouldn't let things slide as easily. Ron DeSantis has been just steamrolling all this nonsense that is hard to push back against, because we have no legislative control in Florida. And again, this is why it's important to pay attention to your local races. This is why it's important to pay attention to build up candidates, to donate, to volunteer, to get them on the state legislators, to get governors. Remember that we almost had Andrew Gillum as the Florida governor. But yes, of course, yeah. So we have Jeb also endorsing Ron DeSanctimonious this week. I do think that DeSantis would also have a better chance of winning against a Democrat as well. I think it seems that chat is the in agreement there, and it's pointed out that DeSantis is more. And I'm going to talk about this in a second, but DeSantis is more anti-trans, more anti-LGBTQ overall. He is more anti-black. He is more I can't say that. I was gonna say anti-Hispanic, but that's another. We'll see on that one. That one's, the jury is still up on that. Trump has a not inconsequential contingent of black voters. He has a not inconsequential contingent of LGBTQ, Republicans. Now, again, there's not many of them, but those that exist are more likely to be with Trump, because Trump doesn't give a crap. Of course, Trump does have this anti-trans rhetoric. I'm not excusing it. But he has not had the ability to single them out in the same way that Ron DeSantis has. Now, of course, let's not forget that Trump banned transgender people from the military. That is something that we cannot forget. But in the grand scheme of things, in comparison, DeSantis has been so much worse on the issue. This article that I brought up probably 15 minutes ago at this point says, and I'm going to pull up the poll. Oh, nope, not the poll. Here we go. Come on. There we go. Okay. So here's the poll. This is a survey of 1,000 adults, 823 respondents with cell phones, all this stuff, right? So you can see the margin of error is about 3.5%. There are, the demographic issues, or not issues, demographic responses. And basically, this is me just showing you that this poll exists. It's a real poll. It's not just made up. It's from Hart Research, Public Opinion Strategies, NBC. About 1/3 of the Republican Party. Now, it's a little less than literally 1/3, but let's say 28%, as the poll suggests. But I think it's slightly higher. I'm gonna take the margin of error and I'm gonna add it to it, because I think that this is how this actually is. 1/3 consider themselves more of a Trump supporter than a supporter of the Republican Party. Now, I don't know about you, but I am not more of a Biden supporter. And look, I'm not even like, if political realignments happened, if all this stuff happened, but as a progressive, the Democratic Party is the vehicle for progressive change in America. And I mean, unless we will actually talk about one exception to that today. But for the most part, the Democratic Party is the vehicle of change in the United States. Although I do think that Biden is probably one of, if not the most successful Democratic modern presidents, and I say modern because I'm saying since Jimmy Carter, I am not more loyal to Joe Biden than I am to the Democratic Party. And loyal is a loose term, but I would not put my fealty to Biden over the Democratic Party. And again, the Democratic Party is the vehicle. It's not like this holier than thou thing. Having at least 28%, I think it's about a third. I think that number needs to be adjusted based on that margin of error. And I think adjusting for geography, if you can really pinpoint like where these things are going to matter in the primary, because this is where it matters in a primary. Trump has the dedicated base. When we even go to Florida, let's do this one first. Ron DeSanctimonious, Meatball Ron, has a book signing. A book signing, and he hates free speech. He is banning these wonderfully fine Trump supporters from his book signing. Why is that?
Yes, why? Because
of what you're wearing?
Because they told me to say anybody wearing Trump has to go right now. During the signing.
Free speech.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I have to call LPD now.
That's fine. There you go. That's all right.
Oh, so
Yeah.
I'm going to let it roll in the background here, but we have a group of Trump supporters mad because a cop had to be, and again, this is a security guard, not a cop, but the security guard, as you can see at the Books A Million in the back, removes these Trump supporters at a book signing for Ron DeSanctimonious because they're wearing Trump apparel. Now, DeSantis is not running yet. So why would he remove these people? Why would he? They're maybe just fans, maybe they like DeSantis and Trump. But I don't know. Maybe not. But here, let's go to another video. Now, this is also in Florida. Now, DeSantis has been going on tour. He's been making the rounds. Meatball Ron came to Philadelphia to talk about crime. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't give a shit what Ron DeSantis has to say about Philadelphia. It's probably the first time he's been there. So, as somebody that probably doesn't give a damn about what's going on in Philadelphia, he is not welcome. We don't want, going to Philadelphia to talk about crime where let's just say that he was the presidential nominee, he would get under 10%. In Philadelphia, he would get under 10%. I would take that bet any day of the week. Under 10% of the vote in Philadelphia for DeSantis, because it's about 10% for Trump. So here we have Brian Kilmeade, who is part of this group that wants to lift up Meatball and really push him to be they all want him to run, right? They all want him to run. Hey, Ron, is this your chance? As we were pointing out in chat, Jeb sure thinks so. Jeb Bush, really great presidential candidate. Jeb Bush really thinks that it is time for Ron DeSantis to ascend to higher office. Now, Brian Kilmeade and Fox and Friends, they all want DeSantis as well. Now, they won't say Trump is so bad, but they want DeSantis. I think they know that he has a better chance. They want somebody that is able to be presentable, be, more mild-mannered than Trump. But this trip to a diner in Florida, which obviously is not a random trip here. This is obviously pre-planned. All the people there, obviously, and every single one of them is a Republican. Now, this is Florida, but This is a diner, 6:30 in the morning, which is a little early, you'd think, for Republicans, in my opinion, because I'm being hateful, I'm being ageist, but usually they're sleeping in. But here they are, getting breakfast in Florida. This is Brian Kilmeade trying to find the pulse of the diner folks, where they who's for Ron? Who's for Ron, guys? This is your governor, guys. Come on. Who's for Ron?
Joe Diney here. I got a question for you. Ready?
Hopefully I don't get this is me pleading to the YouTube gods that I don't get copyright struck because of Smash Mouth playing in the background, because of course Smash Mouth is a surprisingly progressive group, by the way. Check out the Twitter, but hopefully I don't get, copyright strike here.
All right. 2024. Who's pumped up for the election?
Everyone. It's barely
fire.
It's barely 2023. It's barely 2023, but yeah, I'm fired up about 2024. Fired up.
Who's your man? Who's your woman?
My man, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
All right, that's 1 for Trump.
Donald Trump.
2 for Trump.
Christy, no.
Kristi Noem, not running.
Who's your man?
Trump.
Or woman?
Donald Trump again.
Trump.
Trump again.
Trump. A lot of Trump fans.
So now he's still looking. He is looking around to see. Come on, guys. You're in Florida. Come on, give me Ron DeSantis. Somebody, give me Ron DeSantis.
Trump and Nikki Haley.
And Nikki Haley.
Donald.
I'm responding to a comment in chat. If that is true in chat about the singer of Smash Mouth, then I take it back. But my understanding was, based on the Twitter, that they were not right wing.
Donald Trump and Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley and Donald Trump, both of them. So there you go, Jordan, in chat for, you got your it's Women's History Month, so of course you gotta root for Nikki Haley over Trump, but you still also have to say you're voting for Trump, because that's probably who they're actually going to vote for, because Nikki Haley won't make it to the primary elections, to be honest with you. It's not actual feminism, come on now. But there you go.
All right, so far, a lot of Donald Trump. I see
You got a person with a DeSantis shirt.
Governor DeSantis. And what about President DeSantis?
I like it.
Who's your pick?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Trump
Who's your pick?
or DeSantis? I mean,
Trump or DeSantis? She's wearing a DeSantis shirt.
So you're right in the middle.
Yes, I am.
What you pumped up for?
I am super pumped.
So not one person was outright saying DeSantis. Of course, this is just gonna get more and more insane. But all right, if that's true in chat, I revoke what I said about Smash Mouth. But if it's not true, there's still a Shrek classic. But there's one other thing. This is not tied to Meatball Ron, but this is something that I think ties well with okay. This is so I revoke what I said about Smash Mouth. They're not progressive. I must be mistaking them with another band that's mediocre at best. But this is a bill that is proposed in Florida to decertify the Democratic Party. So this bill was filed by a state senator in Florida. Now there's nothing really to this. It's not going to actually happen. It would be called the Ultimate Cancel Act. It does not mention the Democratic Party's name. It would direct the Florida Division of Elections to immediately cancel the filings of a political party to include its registration and approved status as a political party if the party's platform has previously advocated for or been in support of slavery or involuntary servitude. Now, of course, This is where if you are historically illiterate, if you are completely disingenuous, or you are stupid, you would not know or be, if you're a state senator, because I can at least excuse people that don't know, that are just the average Joe. If you're a state senator, you're one of those three things. And to say that the Democratic Party was the one pushing for slavery, you should probably crack open a history book, learn about political realignments, understand why these things happen. Of course, people in the Republican Party want to claim Lincoln as their own, but then they support the secession of the southern states, which again, the Republicans of today now are advocating for secession, as we just talked about last week. So who's really the issue here? And it's not the Democrats. It's not the Democratic Party. But while we're on the topic of issues on the state level and transgender issues, because of course that's the hill everyone's working to die on. We have a video of. I'm gonna try to pause it here. Oh, as it leaks out. We have a video here of third stringer Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire. And I'm going to talk about this in tandem because this clip leads into a discussion on a number of states trying to ban not conversion therapy, trying to ban hormone replacement therapy, trying to ban anything that would help people with gender dysphoria. And Michael Knowles this week advocated for the elimination of transgenderism. Now, what that means, he will try to explain in this clip. People take it for what its literal meaning is, which I think that's what he's talking about, is because transgenderism doesn't exist. There is no ism attached to it. Transgenderism is not an ideology. It does not exist. People are transgender. And people that are transgender do not have an ideology that is united. People within the LGBTQ plus community do not have one single ideology. So again, this is stupid. And he's going to get into the semantics of arguing what a genocide is, because that is what his hill to die on is here tonight. Michael Knowles, third stringer, Daily Wire, owned by Ben Shapiro. Here we go.
That I called to ban transgenderism entirely.
He did. That's what he said.
I made the point that if you want women to have their own bathrooms, if you think women ought to be able to have their own locker rooms and not have to look at gigantic, gross men while little girls are getting changed, if you want,
because that's what happens. That's what happens in locker rooms. We all just look at each other. That is not. I don't know what reality these people are living in. This is why it's ridiculous.
Want any of those things, you have to ban transgenderism entirely. It's not.
You can't ban transgenderism because transgenderism doesn't exist.
Not enough to say, well, you have to wait until you're 12 or whatever people are saying now. It has to be the whole thing, because if men have the right to behave as women and identify as women for the purposes of public life, then women can't have their own spaces. And we as a society cannot have our own standards and norms, and we're not allowed to live according to reality. We have to live according to the delusions of these troubled people. And I think we the people have a right to reality. And I think women have a right to their own spaces. And so that means
Of course, they don't actually think that. They believe that women should be controlled by men. He does not actually believe that women should have their own spaces. And now, of course, this is where I come in and say that transgender women are women, but that's besides the point at this point. He's not even arguing on that level. He doesn't give a shit about the same way that Republicans don't give a damn about women's sports. They don't care about any of this stuff until they can use it as a political pawn in their game. Now, if you want to have those, discussions about the specific sports, you want to have the how do we adjust for this stuff? That's a different story. But that is not where we're talking about here. This is just outright saying, oh, we want women to have their own spaces. Now, of course, he means the kitchen. He doesn't mean being a doctor. He doesn't mean being a producer on a movie. He doesn't mean that he wants women to have the same, even to be an accountant or to what I do. He doesn't want any of that stuff. He wants women at home. He wants women making babies. I mean, that's basically what his advocacy is for. He is a religious fundamentalist. Him and Matt Walsh both are religious fundamentalists.
You got to ban the thing entirely. And oh my goodness, what these people say. They
also, like, trans people have existed since the beginning of time. Gay people have existed since the beginning of time. These fights are so ridiculous, and they keep wanting to fight it, and they keep saying, well, why are we losing the culture war? Why are we losing this? Why are we doing this? Because nobody wants to be a bigot like you, and the people that do are losers. If you can't accept somebody for who they are, their gender identity, their sexual orientation, the color of their skin, for that matter, can lump it in for him here. If you can't accept somebody for who they are, then I'm sorry, you're a loser. You're a dope.
He said that I was calling for the extermination of transgender people.
Now, of course, he just said it. You can rewind it. He wants to eliminate transgenderism. Now, I don't believe that transgenderism exists. That ism does not exist. Now, that's a thinly veiled support for his ideology. He wants to get rid of, ban, make it eliminated. Maybe not say he wants to exterminate it, but he wants to eliminate the ideology or the transitioning of people. But if you can't call it a genocide because
they said I was calling for a genocide against, I said, what? I must have missed that part of my show. When did I say that?
No, you wouldn't say that explicitly.
I don't know how you could have a genocide of transgender people, because genocide refers to genes.
Wrong.
It refers to genetics.
No, it doesn't.
It refers to biology.
Okay. No, it doesn't. Genocide refers to a group of people. He is trying to link this verbiage of saying that genocide, the first part of that word, relates to gene, which it doesn't. It relates to genus, which means people. A group of people. A genocide, which now I don't know how he feels about the genocide that is happening in China. A genocide, in his opinion, couldn't be possible in China because the Uyghur Muslims live in China. Their genetic makeup would be people from China. But the religion, which has nothing to do with your genes, is Islam. So they're being persecuted because of their religion. Now, I'll take it a step further. I haven't heard this, but this is less reliable as a comparison, because would he be willing to say that the Holocaust was not a genocide? the Holocaust, not only did it attack all the different groups, the handicapped people, gay people, of course, the major target of the Holocaust and Hitler and the Nazis were Jewish people. Now, some people, white supremacists, think that ethnicity of Jewish people is different, but that's a whole nother can of worms. If you are persecuted based on your religion in Michael Knowles' world, that would not be considered a genocide because that's not your genes. The same thing could be said in other parts of the world, and I'm drawing a blank on them right now, but off the top of my head, there have been, I'm thinking in, oh man, it's somewhere, it's not in Turkey, but it's around there, where there's been genocides against Christians. They're not white. They're not American Christians. They're not like Irish Catholics. They're persecuted because of a religion. They're persecuted because of what is that? What is a religion? An identity. A part of somebody's identity. Now, if you are arguing the semantics of a genocide, and I'm saying from his point of view, because I think all of these things should be considered genocides, and I think he is advocating for something like that. Maybe not killing people, but the extermination of a group. I mean, what other word is there to say than that? They don't want these people to exist. They don't think that transgender people should have equal rights, and they don't think that, based on this, should exist. So I don't know what else to say about that opinion other than that. So I don't really give a shit what he has to say for the rest of this because it's just going to piss me off. But because I've already listened to it, he doesn't say anything that actually, he's just saying it's based on genes. It can't be a genocide. Okay. If that's what if you're arguing that semantic, I think we understand where we're at. Now, what else do I got here? So this is where it leads me to. So not only do these people, and we've talked about this before, but not only do these right-wingers not want transgender people to exist, they also want to punish people for dressing in drag and for doing drag performances. Now, of course, as I've said in the past, I don't fully get the allure of going to a drag show. They're not for me. Who cares? But Republicans want small government, and I'm saying this ironically, of course. They want small government to control how you dress. They want small government to control how you identify, your gender identity, your sexual orientation. They want small government to outlaw your ability to have drag performances. But of course, that's only if you are doing it. That's only if you are gay or you're trans, which again doesn't mean if you are a drag queen, that doesn't mean that you're trans. That doesn't mean that you're gay. You don't have to be any of those things. You could just be a straight white dude. You want to be as hetero normative for these conservatives as you want and dress in drag. Now, that'd be odd to have an example of that now, wouldn't it? But we might just have one. In Tennessee, as we're about to see, they passed a bill that outlaws drag shows. And one of the Republicans that signed it is the governor. And the governor just so happens to have dressed in drag.
The transgender bill, ban children's transgender therapy, that's on your desk. Drag bill heads back to the Senate for a quick amendment before it hits your desk. Comfortable signing those types of legislation?
Yeah, I expect to sign both of them.
Remember dressing in drag in 1977? Remember that?
So for those listening, and I know it's not very clear, the reporter asks the governor, do you remember dressing in drag in 1977? For those who are just listening here, there is a picture of the governor dressed in drag in his yearbook in 1977.
What a ridiculous question that is.
What a ridiculous question that is. And then, of course, here's the picture.
Conflating something like that to sexualized entertainment in front of children, which is a very serious subject.
Drag is not sexual.
Andy, what you got?
Do you remember it? Is this you?
Andy.
I'm just wondering if you're aware of any specific cases or instances that this bill would stop. Are you aware of specifics in terms of the problem that this is supposed to solve?
I think the concern is what's right there in that building, children that are potentially exposed to sexualized entertainment, to obscenity, and we need to make sure that they're not. I think that's something that should happen in Tennessee, and it will because of this bill.
Would you be okay with
Thank you
drag
all for
queens
your
coming
time
here?
today. Appreciate it, y'all. Thank
Is
you.
it okay if drag queens come to the school? Because this is you. This is you at a high school, Governor. This right here is you at a high school.
Yeah.
Is it only illegal when gay people do it, Governor?
Yes, apparently, yes.
Have you talked to your sister about the bill, Governor? Is
So-
this you?
So there you have it. It is him. That is the crux of that. It is a picture of him in drag that would be illegal if he signs the bills, puts them into into law, banning transgender people from doing things. Doing things as in getting gender affirming care, banning drag shows. Now, of course, they wouldn't ban gay conversion therapy because they think that's good. This is small government, by the way. So there you go. There's that, and then there's also, I'm not gonna even show the video because this guy's a dope. But Matt Walsh was brought in to celebrate the Mississippi, not Missouri, Mississippi bill that bans gender affirming care for children. Cool. Wonderful. These are the type of people we're dealing with here. They don't give a shit. They're not principled. They hate. That's all it is. That's I don't even have to go beyond that. That's the sentence. They hate. Here's the last thing I want to talk about though. This is a complete pivot. This has nothing to do with the rest of what we were talking about today. But I think it's important to note in closing here, which I'm not even I should probably get rid of the discussion about, all right, two things. I'm not going to get rid of it. This is just in closing because I put it in the discussion up front and it's on this up on the Chiron here. Lori Lightfoot is the Chicago mayor right now. She lost in a re-election bid last night in a primary. Now, I think this is a good thing because she's not particularly progressive. She is, meme-worthy. That's kind of what she's known for. The Wall Street Journal doesn't want me to actually get the full article. But let me see if I can pull up the name of the... So while I'm doing this, again, this is in a Democratic primary, but in the same way that Philadelphia, you have groups like the Working Families Party that endorse candidates or have, their own party line basically. And Brandon Johnson is somebody that now is made it to the runoff. And I like seeing this because Brendan Boyle is a not conservative. He's a congressperson, a Democratic congressperson from Philadelphia. And he actually, helped launch my classmate Anthony Bellman to run for state rep. And I'm actually working on trying to get Anthony on the show. I want to talk with him. But Brendan Boyle pointed out, I'm happy to see that this is a primary between Democrat Brandon Johnson and Republican other guy. I don't remember his name either. But the Working Families Party, again, this is a great example of how local organizing, local endorsements, these folks that are getting behind people that otherwise maybe not have a chance, putting their money, as we loop back, putting their money where their mouth is. Now, Brandon Johnson, I believe, is a school teacher, if I want to find out a little bit more here. Can't see if let's see. Yeah. So a big thing in Chicago is the teachers union, right? Because there are issues, let's say, of public education in Chicago and throughout the country for that matter. But getting the teachers unions, all of these teachers unions, as you see on the TV, that's not the TV, the screen here, as he is a teacher, the same way that Jamal Bowman is. And maybe I'll close out tonight's episode with that clip. I think I should. It's important. I just want to say this is the first, I believe, let me check that article, because I believe this is the first time a Democratic mayor in Chicago has not been reelected. So that's a big failure on her part. But all right, one final thing, big issue here, because I need to eat dinner finally. If in the chat is suggested to have Megan Brock on, and I believe Megan Brock is the right winger locally. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. But if that's the case, she has me blocked on Twitter, so I highly doubt that she's going to be coming on my program. This is something that we talked about in the State of the Union response. Breaking news, and I'm reading. Eli Lilly said it would cut the price of insulin, capping monthly out-of-pocket cost of the life-saving drug at $35. Now, I'm quoting President Biden. Huge news. Last year, we capped insulin prices for seniors on Medicare, but there was more work to do. I called on Congress and manufacturers to lower insulin prices for everyone else. Today, Eli Lilly is heeding my call. Others should follow. Now, you may say, Connor, this is a great thing. What possibly could you have a problem with here? Now, if you're watching, I'm going to highlight it. You're listening, it's the word should in the last sentence of President Biden's tweet. Why do I have a problem with this? Well, let's say this is upfront, this is good. Capping insulin costs is good. But capping insulin costs from one of the companies that produce it, Eli Lilly is one of the largest, let's be honest here, but capping it on what basis? For how long? That is the question. If there is no legislative reason why they have to, this is a PR stunt. Now, I might be skeptical, I might be cynical, but I do not believe that this is something that we should tout it as a Biden achievement, not an Eli Lilly thing. But that word should be others will follow, because I am going to make them, as President Biden should say. Because Congress should pass a bill that caps out-of-pocket costs for insulin at $35. Actually, there's other places that now we see the senators on the Republican side saying, oh, it should be $25, which of course they don't actually mean that. But Biden pulling this off is a good thing. Now, you cannot let off. This is like having the enemy, on the ropes. Finish them. Finish them. Get it done. Legislative pressure is the only way to get that done. Legislative, binding is the only way to lock that in forever. A drug that was sold for $1, the patent for $1 because it was supposed to be a public good, should be capped by law, not by goodwill. That's my personal opinion on it. But that's something that I think we should celebrate Dark Brandon for doing, but also should really be, skeptical. We shouldn't like take the benevolence of, these large corporations, be like, oh, they're doing the right thing. We should give them all this PR. No, like they're doing the right thing to get PR. And then, 2 years down the line, who knows who's president then? So then things change, maybe. All right. This is something that, this is the end here, but I want to, my tweet elevating this got no likes, got no engagement. But as I am showing you, Jamal Bowman, I just want to highlight this because this is impressive. As somebody that is or was at least a competitive powerlifter, this is the most I ever benched, 405 pounds. This is former teacher and current congressman Jamal Bowman benching 405 pounds pretty easily. So here he is. I'm gonna narrate it because it's really loud in the gym. Unrack. Touches the chest, gets it up. The guy in the cutoff Yankee shirt does not touch it. The old Italian man does not touch it. Jamal Bowman hammers it out. This is my congressman. This is what I want to see in Congress. I don't want to see any more BS until I start seeing every single congressman putting up I don't want to see Marjorie Taylor Greene doing freaking chin-ups with kipping pull-ups. I want to see everybody loading up the barbell, showing us your max bench, because that's the only thing that matters. How much do you bench? That's how we should determine who is in leadership in our government, is bench off. Always go for the bench off. But with that being said, in all seriousness, thank you guys for watching. If you guys are new here, or if you are just seeing a clip or whatever, hit the subscribe button down below on YouTube to help us get over the hump of 110 subscribers. Huge number. As somebody pointed out in my last clip, you've been doing this for months. You only have 100 subscribers. Loser. He didn't call me a loser. I'm calling myself a loser. But do hit that subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up while you're out there too. If you're listening, or if you want to listen to the audio versions, you can do that on Apple, Spotify, Google, anywhere that you can get podcasts. You can most likely find the show. And you can follow the program on Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok at Greater Society Media. And you can become one of the first 10. I'll highlight this because we have 2 patrons right now. Come on over, become a patron. Patreon.com/Greater Society Media. It helps me grow the program, helps me, pay the editor, producer, Josh. So all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next week. And, if you have guest suggestions, all that stuff, you can always join the Discord server and give the suggestions there. Almost forgot that. But until next week, stay safe. Peace.